to enable all participants and fellow panelists to have a clear view of just clear connection. And then please remember that if you have any questions during the session, remember to post them in the Q&A box. It's right there, and indicate basically all the reflections that you'd like any of the panelists or speakers to share with you after they are done with the presentations. I will also like to share with you that for any other side conversations that you would like to directly have with anyone else, please feel free to use the chat box. But for the case of all the official questions that are coming in from this session, we're definitely going to look at the Q&A. So at this point, allow us to quickly start by introduction of our guest speakers today.
I have a suspicion that my headphone doesn't work. Can we check that?
Sorry, Mr. Rolf, could you please mute your microphone?
Mr. Rolf, your microphone is working fine.
Yeah, but they can't hear me apparently.
We can.
We can hear you.
Well, when I speak to them, they don't hear me. Whatever I say, I can hear them. Well, I can hear them hardly, and it's very bad. So there's nothing to my system, you mean?
Rolf?
Say what? When you look at this at my screen now, can you see it?
Apologies, guys. Let's try to.
And you can see the people. You see what they're doing.
All right. Thank you. I think we can proceed. Thanks for that. Apologies for the miscommunication. I think you will have it sorted out. So let's proceed, guys, and I will first introduce our guest speakers of the day who are going to share with us basically their insights on how they have been working, of course, and how AfriGEO is supporting with regards to the industry in Africa. So first and foremost, our guest speaker for today is going to be Mr. Dan Ahwin. So Dan Ahwin is a research scientist at the NASA Marshall Space Flight Center with the Global Program for SAVIR, which is basically a flagship of NASA and USAID. And he has over 25 years of experience in satellite remote sensing applications and GIS in the developing world. He also serves he also previously served as the lead remote sensing specialist in support of NASA's space archaeology program, with a focusing on detecting structures in ancient Maya. And then, of course, prior to joining NASA, he had lived and worked in Guatemala, developing leading GIS laboratories for conservation organizations for the Guatemalan government. Dan, with his background in environmental science from the University of James Madison, and a master's degree in environmental science as well from the University of Oxford, from the University of Ohio in Oxford, has also been a recipient of the 2021 Service to Citizen Award, celebrating public servants who demonstrate excellence in delivery of services that impact the public lives. Outside of his work, Dan definitely promotes small businesses in rural and Central American villages to promote economic alternatives to local communities. And he also designs and builds children's libraries and playgrounds in rural villages in Guatemala. So our second speaker is also going to be Mr. Stephen Ramage. And Stephen Ramage, as you may know, leads the external relations at the Group on Earth Observation Secretariat in Geneva, Switzerland. His role involves focusing on the interfaces between science, technology, and policy, and decisions in support of more than 100 UN member states. He's also on the governing boards of Digital Earth Africa and Digital Earth Pacific, and a member of the UK Space Agency Earth Observations Advisory Committee and the advisory board of EO4GEO. Stephen is also an owner or director of One Spatial before taking on the role of executive director of the Open Geospatial Consortium and then managing director of the Ordnance Survey International. Stephen is a visiting professor at the Institute of Future Cities and University of Strathclyde, Glasgow, and a fellow of the Royal Geographic Society, RGS. And ladies and gentlemen, I think I have the pleasure to introduce to you now our first guest speaker of the day, Mr. Dan Ahwin, to share his inputs.
Great,
Dan,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm so pleased to be part of the 5th annual AfriGEO Symposium. At NASA, we're driven by the belief that putting the power of Earth observations and geospatial technology into the hands of the broader community is a catalyst for climate resilience and other societal benefits. And ever since NASA and USAID came together to start the Surveyor program 16 years ago, we've worked to make Earth observations available and accessible to communities around the world. Today, we continue to do this through what we call open source science. And making science open source is more than just a buzzword or a best practice. As the scientific community confronts complex international challenges like climate change, our success in generating societal benefit hinges upon whether or not we're engaging with real people. We can't expect to help communities if we never ask what they need. And NASA's open source science initiative is a long-term commitment to change the culture of science, to be more collaborative, to be more inclusive, to be more transparent and more accessible. And this includes consulting with diverse communities, investing in capacity development, making our data and code publicly available, and co-developing solutions together. As representatives of NASA and in collaboration with USAID, that commitment shapes every decision that we make. Now, this is because more now than ever, practitioners of open Earth observations are uniquely situated to be torchbearers for climate action. Earlier this month, President Biden introduced 3 new initiatives that include Surveyor efforts. However, that success depends on the leadership and expertise of organizations and individuals that connect us with the countries we work. A diverse network of partnerships makes our open source science approach possible. Our collaborators range from vast international organizations like FAO and the World Food Program down to local NGOs and small businesses. And increasingly, we've also achieved tremendous success partnering with the private sector. Announced during this month's COP26, Google and Unilever with FAO and WRI will be among our teammates as part of the new USAID-supported Forest Data Partnership to expand open source, consistent, validated geospatial data to forest risk commodities. And we're also increasingly recognizing the enormous value of small firms as bridges to engaging the broader community, of which through USAID mechanisms we've supported in the past with small grants. And of course, the Group on Earth Observations has been one of our most valuable partnerships ever since Surveyor and GEO were both born in 2005. And Surveyor and GEO have worked together almost since day one to foster the application of Earth observations at all scales. And we're incredibly lucky to work with the geospatial community that is growing and flourishing in Africa right now. RCMRD has enabled Surveyor's Eastern and Southern Africa hub to turn data into action since 2008. And an incredible network of geospatial groups has supported us in West Africa since 2016. And the lessons we've learned from the African geospatial community has not only helped us deliver the results here, but it's shaped and improved the ways we work in the rest of the world. The wisdom and leadership of the community gathered here today extends well beyond Africa. Surveyor's committed to return that support by helping to foster geospatial and Earth observations to communities across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And our approach prioritizes consultation and collaboration with local partners, both public and private, throughout the design and implementation of our services. And our services provide not only publicly available tools, but also frequent workshops for building capacity. And we've been hard at work to increase the amount of open source geospatial data available. Our recently updated ClimateServe website provides a clearinghouse for open source climate data that was designed to prioritize easy access, especially of very large data sets. And NASA Administrator Senator Bill Nelson recently announced that Servier is receiving a $3 million grant for gender-sensitive climate resilience programs in East African agricultural communities. And through the support of USAID for this, and in collaboration with RCMRD, part of this grant will go towards developing greater career opportunities for women and girls in geospatial and earth sciences. In the first 5 years of the AfriGEO Symposium, we've seen so many inspiring successes come out of this community. And we have no doubt that the next 5 years will see many more. Geospatial entities like yours are invaluable bridges between scientists and real communities, turning Earth observations into meaningful benefits for society. And on behalf of Servier and NASA and our colleagues at USAID, we look forward to being part of the team for the next chapter. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dan Ahwin, for your very insightful creations on what you have been working on and the opportunities that there are available for the community at large. So we will move on directly at this point to introduce, to get Mr. Stephen Ramage to make his submissions as well. Welcome.
Vivian, can you see my screen?
Yes, just put it on. You're sharing. We can see your notes though.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see the full screen now?
No, disappeared. So we lost it again.
Oh.
Can we do it from your end, Stephen? From our end?
Sure, if you can share it, that would be great.
A minute.
Are you sharing from that side?
The Secretariat is on, and I think they're trying to help you. Anastasia?
Yes, we are trying to
Okay.
do that.
All right.
So let me just start talking while we're doing that. So thanks Dan, thanks Vivian. It's great to be back again at the AfriGEO Symposium. I've been attending in person for a number of years. And I guess I'm the third person from the Geosecretariat this week. You've had Yana and Sarah who've been already supporting it. And I think, GEO exists to work with and on behalf of UN member states, i.e. countries. And so the links to industry are long-standing because obviously the GEO members, the countries, have been working with countries for a while. One of the things I wanted to kind of make as an important distinction, and something that's really important, is we talk about the value chain in terms of where companies sit. In terms of upstream satellites and data provision to downstream data analytics and capacity development. And then the supply chain, which is something different, which describes how goods and services travel from the point of creation. For example, pineapples grown in West Africa and shipped to Europe. And both of these areas are important for industry awareness and collaboration. So I did have, let me just try again. I don't know if you've been able to share do you have my screen showing now?
Yep.
Yep. Could you go to the next slide, please? I wanted to leave my profile up there because I helped run a software company for 10 years. So we bought the company in 2003, and there were about 30 people in the company, and I stayed there until we hit 130 people. So I know what it's like running a company. I know what it's like having dreams about cash flow and about getting enough projects to pay people, and also about being innovative and about you know, sort of always trying to push the envelope in terms of the software and the services and the technology that you work with. So I just wanted to leave that in there. Next one, please. So you saw this yesterday from Sarah, and this was a collaboration between GEO and Climate Trace, or What Time from Climate Trace, and the World Geospatial Industry Council. And it was looking at the this greenhouse gas monitoring from space, looking at public, private, and hybrid missions. And I put this in again just to remind people that on the upstream part, there's a lot of activity going on in the value chain. And if you look at the key policy messages here that are on this slide, you will see that downstream there will be a lot of requirement for you know, for SMEs to help support and deliver against the data and the insights and the evidence that will be coming out of these different satellites. Next one, please. So one of the things that we're doing is we're working on the digital divide. We've been working on open data, like Dan says, since 2005, open software and open standards. All of these things have been, you know, sort of basic tenets of GEO for many years. And more recently, we've been working on open science with the GEO Knowledge Hub. And so all of that is now under an umbrella of open knowledge, which I guess you would have heard Jana talk about. Next one, please. In GEO, there are more than 60 different programs, and these are 4 of them. These are the flagship initiatives from the GEO Work Programme, and they're all supporting important environmental or socioeconomic activities that impact all of us day to day. So, for example, GOS4M is linked to the Minamata Convention and artisanal small-scale gold mining, and the use of remote sensing to monitor and track activities that affect millions of people in Africa. As you've also heard in the previous session, GeoGlam is working on food security, but there are some ideas going forward about working in insurance. And as I mentioned at the beginning, supply chain is a huge topic linked to ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance issues. So, for example, was there deforestation associated with the supply of palm oil or other products that you're using? And then finally, and that's where something like GFOI would come in and the work they're doing with RED+. And then finally, GeoBon is working with the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, who are working on a gross ecosystem product, which would be a similar measure for nature, such as tools and services to help countries monitor, track, and report on progress, as well as put together policy and take action. But these are only 4 of the programs under development at GEO. Next one, please. So in 2019, we started our cloud credits program with Amazon Web Services, where we provided cloud credits for 20 different activities in least developed countries. European SME called Synergize supported this call. And now Amazon Web Services are providing petabytes of storage as a philanthropic contribution to Digital Earth Africa. At COP25 in Madrid, we announced another almost $5 million of support from Google Earth Engine to support 32 projects from around the world. And this is a broad range of projects that you can read about at the link on the page that were showcased this week at GEO for Good. And again, another SME based in Australia, EO Data Science, has been has been working with us on that. But you can see here that even the United Nations is taking advantage of this program to work with countries and to work with SMEs and what they're doing. And then most recently, we've made several calls with Microsoft, and all of these calls have been linked to the geo engagement priorities, i.e. the UN 2030 Agenda, the Paris Agreement, and the Sendai Framework. However, the Microsoft calls are now tied to the geo work program as well. And we've made several calls, and these are for cash and cloud credits. So in total, we have almost 70 of these projects with private sector organizations. Next one, please. So I believe everyone's already aware of Digital Earth Africa, and it provides open, free, and ready-to-use Earth observation data for the African continent. I sit on the governing board of Digital Earth Africa, and so we're trying to work with industry and policymakers so they can access the data to detect changes in areas such as water supply, coverage, coastline, land cover change, and looking at things like deforestation and other areas that would link to mitigation and adaptation going forward. It's providing a cloud computing platform, open source algorithms, and online training, all of which, I guess, go towards developing capacity in Africa. Next. So in terms of Digital Earth Africa, there's a number of things that have been going on, working with SMEs. So they work with Frontier SI, NGIS, and CUI Studios from South Africa to complete an industry engagement study. And the final report's coming soon. They contacted nearly 100 people in Africa, interviewing 42 companies from more than a dozen African nations. So there are a number of themes that came out in terms of barriers for adoption and use of EO data. First one was accessibility, the ease of access to analysis-ready products and services. The second was education and capacity, the need for skills and capacity to introduce new products. And the third one was kind of technical and technology. So the cost of cloud storage and compute, internet access, algorithms, and so on. But there will be opportunities available through Digital Earth Africa products and services, along with what are called self-learning modules and free access to compute. The second one is the Digital Earth Africa Innovation Challenge. It's a small-scale targeted incubator program to explore connections with the private sector. And 10 companies were chosen to explore and demonstrate how the Digital Earth Africa infrastructure, products and services can be leveraged by the private sector. 2 proposals have been selected to promote and demonstrate industry innovation using Earth observation. One is Big Data Ghana, looking at farm-scale natural capital accounting. And the second one is AgriBora for Kenya, which is the Smart Farmer application, looking at digital information services for smallholder farmers. And then the final one is the Africa EO Challenge, which is an annual open innovation challenge, which started in 2016. And the focus is on cloud compute and analysis-ready data, including high-resolution imagery. With almost 60 companies entered the challenge, a short list of 14 companies were picked for final pitching last week, and the 6 winners will be announced this week, and they'll get mentoring and other ongoing entrepreneurial support over the next few months to help them develop products and services for sustainable business. And the next one, this is essentially my last slide. We have been working on the industry track for several years now, and working with our colleagues in Australia and South Africa, notably with companies EDA Space, who you see there. The virtual industry track this year, which takes place next week, 22nd to 23rd of November, will focus on presenting the activities of the Geo Work Programme to sort of boost a little bit what Amos was talking about around public-private partnerships, and ideally to support national Earth observation initiatives, because GEO is an intergovernmental organisation. We have offered 16 SMEs or SMMEs, small, medium and micro-sized enterprises, an opportunity to profile their work and to interact with a panel of senior GEO associates The associates is the category within GEO for private sector, and there's almost 20 of those organizations now. And I know Planet and Google are going to apply to be associates quite soon. Well, Planet's already applied. Google is underway. And then there will be 2 panel sessions, which should be useful to SMMEs, one on public-private partnerships and another on funding. So that's really it from me. There is one more slide, but I just wanted to say that there are different ways to engage, but I think the industry track is probably the most comprehensive, and whatever comes out of that will guide and shape a lot of the work that we do going forward next year. And AfriGEO has been part of developing that industry track. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for highlighting the importance that role that AfriGEO has played and NGO particularly in bringing together the industry, and particularly for the industry track sessions that didn't start not too long ago. So at this point, I think basically it would just to hear your views much more on any specific insights, and I will start with Mr. Dan Ahwin on any specific insights that you feel that African SMEs can benefit from, particularly with those relating to how we can forge partnerships to align to readiness, promoting the uptake of GEO in the different countries at national level, and also at continental or even across board, how these different SMEs can package themselves to be able to also just sell out the technologies we're also developing internally to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways to approach that. I think that one, just this promotion of open source science, and I think everybody embracing those principles is really important. And we are really happy to share those as, and it's a relatively new initiative, but we, I think could really benefit by really sharing those principles and maybe having conversations around those. And I think the second is just, I think just further communication in the community overall, and the sharing of the different activities, kind of like what we're doing here in this symposium. So I think those are a couple factors that I think would add some value.
Thank you very much. Now, Stephen, any insights on that?
Yeah, I think like the work that that Surveyor is doing, there's a lot of opportunity. We focused a lot on open data and using Landsat, ALOS, Copernicus, POPSAT, etc. And I think there's also a lot of work going on at the kind of algorithm and method level, and that's part of what the Geo Knowledge Hub about sharing that, and that will be openly accessible to everyone. So I think it's worth looking at what Surveyor and others have done and learning from that, and maybe applying that in a commercial context. The other thing I'd say is, I only showed 4 of the 60 odd activities in the Geo Work Programme. You're going to hear from Audrey. I mean, there's Geo Blue Planet. I mean, we're covering everything where you can use Earth observations, from agriculture, biodiversity, climate, disasters, energy, forestry, land, water, urban, all of those areas, and many that I've missed. And so I think if you have a specific focus in a specific domain, there are experts out there that are really willing to work with you, particularly from this kind of public-private partnership perspective. And so I think, like Dan said, just communicating some of those successes will be really important, because there is some brilliant stuff going on, and it's really hard to keep up. There's a staggering amount of stuff happening in Earth observations at the moment. And I mean, I'm not alone in calling it the golden era of Earth observations, but if you look at what's happening in the private sector, in the upstream part with Satellogic, with Planet, with all of the money going into it, there's going to be huge opportunities downstream as well for people to work locally, who have that local knowledge, local insight, who understand and can deal with the farmers at the local level, who understand what the data is, who understand the trends, you know, in land and biodiversity and all these areas, that working at a global level, you'll never get. So that local knowledge, but riding on the wave of the global Earth observations sort of movement. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
No. It makes so much sense, and I'm grateful for that, because all I'm reading into is the fact that ideally we would need to promote a lot of cross-fertilization between even the smaller institutions in Africa and also across the globe who've been there and are basically have walked the same path before. And ideally just to ensure that this knowledge, through the knowledge hubs that GEO is presenting, this knowledge transfer is well synthesized into the different African SMEs that we have. So thankful very much for your sentiments on the same. I think for the participants, if there are any questions relating to the two guest speakers, that is Mr. Dan and Stephen, please feel free to share your questions in the Q&A chat box, and we can always share with them at the end of the session. So please allow me to move to the next session at this point, which is the plenary. And for the plenary session, we're going to have 2 rounds of presentation. The first presentation is going to have 4 speakers drawn from different institutions, sharing the work that they've been doing in the different organizations. And then also the second plenary session is going to cover three speakers who are also brought from different African institutions working in the geospace. So participants, first and foremost, let me introduce you to Dr. Linwin Martin, who is the Senior Scientist, Cape Point Global Atmosphere Watch, GAW Station, ASA Weather Service. So Dr. Lynn Martin is a Senior Research Scientist at the South African Weather Service Global Atmosphere Watch Station at Cape Point, and he has an MSc in Environmental. Could you please mute?
Vivian, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, you can hear me now. Sorry for that. So Dr. Lynn Martin has research centers that he has been working on long-term monitoring of greenhouse gases and atmospheric pollutants, including mercury. And his work basically combines atmospheric models and measurements with overarching goal of increasing fundamental understanding of the impacts of human activity and natural processes in the atmosphere. Currently, he's the project coordinator of the South African Mercury Network, SAMNET, which aims to establish new monitoring stations throughout the country. SAMNET is the first coordinated mercury monitoring program in Southern Africa involving academia, industry, government, and forms part of the Global Observations System for Mercury, which is a GEO flagship program. So through the GEO S4M, it aims to support the Minata Convention on Mercury Secretariat, the UN Environment Mercury Fate and Transport Partnership, and all nations in the follow-up conferences of parties relating to effectiveness, evaluation, and global monitoring framework. So Dr. Martin is also one of the co-chairs as well as the African focal point for GEO S4M. Our second panelist is going to be Ms. Audrey Hassan, who is from the GEO Blue Planet. And Audrey is the EU coordinator of the GEO Blue Planet initiative, hosted by the Makata Ocean International as part of the EU Ocean 4BS EPI action funded by the EU. She leads the GEO Blue Planet Marine Litter Working Group, and she is a physical oceanographer specialized in remote sensing of the sea surface salinity. She holds a PhD from the University of Toulouse and has worked as a postdoc researcher in the American, French, and European space agencies, that is NASA, CNES, and ESA. She has also authored and co-authored over 15 peer-reviewed scientific papers, and has also participated in several research seagoing expeditions, and has particular interest in public outreach. So our third panelist of the day is going to be Professor Dr. Zoltan Vakhadi, who is from the EO R&D facility, Earth Observation R&D facility hosted by ESA. So Zoltan Vakhadi is a hydrologist by training and a remote sensing specialist who holds the position of a senior project manager at ITC from the University of Twente. And he has also works as a full professor at the Haningan University of Agriculture and Life Sciences in Hungary. And he started his research career in the 1980s at the Water Resources Research Center in Hungary. Since the beginning, he's basically also been in the application of Earth observation for water management, with a lot more focus on environmental and agricultural aspects. He has done a research on a number of wetlands around the world, including those in Iran, China, Mexico, and other countries in Africa. Throughout his career, he's also been supervising very many young researchers at PhD and MSc levels for different universities across the world. And he's co-authored more than 100 scientific publications, including peer-reviewed articles, books, reports, and the likes. So since 2008, he's also been a PI investigator working for the Tiger Capacity Building Facility. And recently now he is now based at the EO Africa R&D facility that is funded by the European Space Agency. And he has been coordinating the hundreds of researchers working on the same for more than 50 Earth observation relating projects in the water sector. And he was involved in research projects in Asia, including Iran, China, and Indonesia, mostly dealing with EO for water management. So our last presenter for that session is going to be Professor Meoli Kashoda, who is representing KENET, which is the Kenya Education Network. And Professor Meoli currently is the Executive Director for KENET, and which is a National Research and Education of Kenya institution. And in the last 10 years, he has been leading a team of developing fiber-based high-speed internet connectivity and Kenyan universities and research institutions and the Kenyan Research Cloud to provide computational and research data storage resources for Kenyan researchers and faculties. He has been actively involved in building partnerships with global research, education networks, and Africa Open Science platforms, and has been a member of the GIANT task force on research engagement development since the year 2018. He is also the professor of information systems at USIU Africa in Kenya, and holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Nairobi, as well as a PhD in electrical systems and engineering from the University of Essex from England. He's a member of the Institution of Electrical and Electronics Engineer, MIEEE, and the Institution of Engineering and Technology, MIET. So participants, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of introducing to us the first presenter who will share with us their slides. Dr. Lin, please, the floor is yours. Dr. Lin. Okay, seems like she's on mute. Okay, we can proceed. Audrey, are you available?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Okay. So
you want me to go first?
Yes, kindly.
No worries.
Right.
Would you mind sharing my screen, please? Not sharing my screen, sorry, sharing my PowerPoint presentation that you guys have on your side.
Okay, let me call on the help desk.
Otherwise, I can share my screen either.
Okay, if you can, please do.
Oh, yeah, of
otherwise, the Secretariat was on it. They can always share if there's a problem.
Let's do this here. And then. Can you see it full screen?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for thank you to AfriGEO for the kind invitation. It's the first time I participate in the AfriGEO Symposium, and I'm really glad. And you'll see why in the presentation. So I'm going to be presenting today the GeoBlue Planet initiative, and I am the European coordinator. This is part, as Vivian was saying, as part of the EU for Ocean Ops FPI action of the European Commission, and it is implemented here at Mercator Océan International. Yes, so this is my bio, and Vivian went through this already, and I'm just going to jump through and go all the way directly to what we do at GeoBlue Planet. So basically, as you all know, GEO has some engagement priorities that are the SDGs goals, the Paris Agreement, the disaster risk reduction agreement, and urban resilience. And from these goals, GeoBlue Planet has been working for 5 years on 7 different topics. We're working on fisheries, on coastal flooding, marine litter, eutrophication, waterborne disease, sargassum, and oil spills. And the way we work is that we do actions around 3 pillars. The first one is stakeholder engagement. And we do, for instance, outreach material, workshops, symposium, and so on to understand what the user needs are. And then we do cooperation and co-design to be able to produce the services and produce the platform that our users need. And we do this in partnership with them via user groups and so on. And then we do some capacity development. And the capacity development ensures that the users are using the tools and the platform the best possible way. And also in this part of our work, we do some transfer of application to operational agencies, because when we create hubs, the plan of GeoBlue Planet is not to keep this hub forever, but to transition it to operational agencies. So here at GeoBlue Planet, we have 2.5 now offices. There is one office in the US since 2015. When we create hubs, I can hear someone speaking. If people can mute, it would be nice. And then we have a European office. We just opened it actually exactly 1 year ago today. And we'll be having an Asian office coming in early 2022. And they'll be starting working on thematic activities that are of relevance for them. So the European office that I chair, for now, we've been working mostly on marine litter and on sargassum. And I will be presenting mostly the sargassum work we've been doing, because I think that's the most interest for this industry track, and a little bit about marine litter as well. So first of all, the aim of the sargassum activities is to transform data and knowledge into information that is usable by the people who need this information. So, as you may know, sargassum is a seaweed, and it's been inundating the Caribbean region starting from 2011. Sorry. And it's not so much toxic that it smells bad, and it's really complicated for many industries in the area, because it goes into the propellers and make fishermen work much harder. It also goes on the beach and smells like rotten eggs, so not really good for the tourism industry. So under the impulsion of the IOC Caribbean, the Regional Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the UN, we have held a workshop in 2018 on sargassum and also oil spill monitoring in the Caribbean region. But most recently, as we've seen the sargassum moving from the Caribbean region all the way in the tropical Atlantic towards Africa, we've been working on this, and to do this, the first step was to have a workshop in last June. Hopefully, some of you did attend. And we investigated the challenges and opportunities in addressing the spread of sargassum across the tropical Atlantic Ocean. And I think what's really important here to see is that, of course, it's a challenge, but it's also great opportunity for the African coast. So in the working group, we have high-level stakeholders like the IOC, the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission. We have experts. We also have, at the high level, we have the Regional Seas Convention of both sides of the Atlantic. We have experts that know about the observing, the research around sargassum, and we have end users, because we need to make sure that what we are doing is useful for them. So as of today, not as of today, sorry, right now, today, we have this Sargassum Information Hub. It's work in progress, but it gives you a state-of-the-art knowledge in plain language, integrated monitoring and forecasting. And I think that's, the most important for the industries here is best practices for guides, for mitigation, because this seaweed is a problem for some of the industry, but we've shown in the workshop that a lot of people are actually using it as input for their industry, because it's full of carbon, and people make vegetal leather, or they make paper out of it, or fertilizers, or fuel and so on from it. And it's also good for networking. So people interested in sargassum can, not reinvent the wheel, but get the information and the contact directly from across the Atlantic. And this website right now is available in English, but it will soon be translated into French, Spanish, and Portuguese to make sure that we cover most spoken languages in this area. And then we move on to capacity development next year. The idea is to transfer the hub to relevant high-level stakeholder operational agencies. We also want to do some training, more information exchanges, because people on the field, be it fishermen or entrepreneurs, they are the one who are doing the mitigation, and they're the one who can tell us, how we need to manage this issue. Very quickly, I will also go over what we do at the Marine Litter Working Group. Right now, and just an hour ago, we had our second session of this workshop. We have the concluding session tomorrow morning. And we're looking at creating an integrated observing system for marine debris. So getting all the information into one spot. So in the Marine Litter Working Group, we also have high-level stakeholders and experts. We don't have end users yet, because the science behind marine litter is still, I would say, younger than the sargassum. So we're not there yet, but we're working to make sure that we have sufficient and quality observations, marine litter observation, for the knowledge and information before we share it one step further. So we've been working for global and transdisciplinary expert network building. We are supporting the UNEP GPML digital platform, the global partnership on marine litter. To do that, we have written a white paper on the monitoring and indicators, and we're supporting the integrated marine debris observing system for implementation. And then what else in 2022? We will work on advancing cooperation across geoactivities on thematic around marine hazards. And we have next week the Geo Week, and we will have a side event on developing cooperation across geoactivities to address marine hazards in Africa. And this is in collaboration with AfriGEO, with Digital Earth Africa, with GMS in Africa. Next steps also for 2022, because this side event will be just the first step. I'll be also working to develop the full value chain use cases for Africa. So one colleague from Togo will join my team, and we'll be working, focusing on use cases in Africa and probably on coastal erosion. And then we will also work in GeoBlue Planet to coordinate the geo actions in the UN Decade of Ocean Sciences for Sustainable Development. So really, this UN Decade aims at moving from the ocean we have to the ocean we want, and we want to facilitate the middle, the transition from one to the next. So this is it for me. I will be also, I want to advertise these two events that are happening next week, but also the concluding session tomorrow at 8 a.m. UTC. I'll also invite all the participants to go to the booth of AfriGEO, because there will be a booth from SMMEs, from the Copernicus Marine Service, and they will be presenting a webinar, a training, series that they have put together that is called Marine Data for Africa. It aims at both scientists, but mainly entrepreneurs who are interested to learn how to use the Copernicus marine data for their businesses. So I invite you to go to the virtual booth later on today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Audrey Hassan, and I think it's a pleasure to learn more about the work you're doing on GeoBlue Planet. So I think moving on, and because of time, we are going to move to the next speaker, who is Professor Zoltan Vakedi. Are you around? Please,
Thank you very much.
Just share your screen and get going.
Let me try to use my screen. In fact, I would like to share this one with you. Can you please confirm that you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, that's very good. Sorry, I'm not using the template that we have received, with all apologies, because I didn't have time to reshape the things for that template. So please accept our project template. What I would like to talk about is the EU-Africa Research and Development Facility. I'm talking about this here in the industry session, because this is a very nice opportunity for us to outreach to industry and to outreach to African companies who are dealing with research and development in them. Why I cannot move this, 1 second. Oh, here it goes. So, in fact, a few words about the EU-Africa R&D facility. This is an initiative of the European Space Agency, and we are aiming at providing capacity development through research. And here, this is the really challenging thing. So capacity development through research is a niche that we think others are not fully covering. Usually capacity development aims at looking at existing technologies and developing capacities to use those technologies and that knowledge. What we are aiming at is to focus on how to develop new technologies and how to develop new knowledge, and building capacities in Africa for that. We are going hand in hand with other programs like GMES in Africa. We already heard also about the Digital Earth of Africa. So there are different programs. We are really aiming at that niche that is not fully covered by them. Practically, this is a long-term program of the European Space Agency. And what I can talk about is the coming 3 years or coming 2.5 years, because our project is running already for half a year, and we have another 2.5 years to run. But this is already a follow-up of something that happened in Africa for more than 10 years, and that was the Tiger initiative of the European Space Agency. And through this Tiger initiative, we came across many African experts And many were just opening up to use and develop Earth observation technologies through the Tiger Initiative and the Tiger Capacity Building Facility. So this EO Africa R&D facility is the continuation of that, but I can say that at a larger scale. What is really in our facility, first of all, is grouped around 30 research projects. We just announced in the beginning of this week the first call for 15 projects. I will talk about that call a little later. But practically, these projects, this call will be followed by another call after a year. And we aim at supporting small research projects, not very big ones. In total, that is 750K that we are spending on the 3 projects. With a little bit of arithmetic, you can very easily figure out that it's 25,000 per project. Not a very big money, but it is not only the project that we are talking about, but also the ICT facilities that we are providing with that. And these ICT facilities, we call them the Innovation Lab, is a cloud-based facility where access to data and access to computing power is also provided extra on the top of the research money that I was just talking about. And to support the use of these new technologies and to help participants to really catch up to the top of the science and technology levels, we also established a digital campus which serves as part of the Space Academy, which is a set of different kinds of capacity development activities. If you look at this link at the bottom of the page, this is the link where you can find more information about the whole EO Africa R&D facility. I just want to underline that what is important for us now is the ICT infrastructure, and of course, and this is practically supported with the digital capacity development activities and the platform. A few words about the Innovation Lab. In fact, the Innovation Lab is a virtual environment in the cloud that enables the user, and in this sense enables the researchers of those projects that we support and the participants of the different courses to get access to all tools that you can imagine in cloud-based environments and data. Not only the European Space Agency's data, but since this lab is implemented on the CREO-DIAS, the different data that are available through the DIAS or the DSs, including third-party data. This virtual research environment is established to provide a tool where the research projects can work. And with this, you can get very fast data exploitation and analysis tools. And you can use big data, get access to big data. And there are machine learning tools also implemented. We don't only want to use this for generating, how to say, workflows as a research result, but also we would like to allow the projects to share their results, and that can go through code sharing and data sharing. And we provide opportunities to publish and share the results of these research projects. Everything is in fact in an open science environment. We were already talking about this here in this session. A few aspects of the research projects. What we really expect from the research projects is to deal with African data and to focus on African projects. Looking at the timeline, you can see here the research projects, we are just somewhere here. We announced the research call this week. The research call is open till the end of the year. The 31st of December, we will close the application or proposal phase. Then the research projects will start somewhere in the third month of 2022. And there will be a new call next year announced, and a new set of research projects will start after that from the third month of 23. For this, what we aim at is to get certain results which can be shared using the ICT environment that we are providing. So the research projects are really encouraged to use this environment that we are providing. It is practically ready. It is available. So it is operational, and it will be tested next week on a hackathon or in a hackathon event for African researchers on the Africa GIS Symposium. A few more words about the cause. So the idea is that we would like to have research proposals in the topic of water scarcity and food security. And in this first phase, we focus at mapping and monitoring the environment in relation to water scarcity and food security. Each proposing a group should consist of 2 lead scientists, 1 African and 1 European. This way, we encourage cooperation between Africa and Europe, which is the policy of the African Union and the European Union. In fact, the call is also fully supported by the African Union Commission. As I already mentioned, the ICT background will be the Innovation Lab, but there will be facilities provided to learn both the ICT and the Earth observation related aspects through the Space Academy. And we assume that those who are providing these research proposals are PhD degree holders, the PIs, or at least in the process of getting to their PhD. The most important things, the dates. So as you see, the call was announced recently. We close it in the end of the year. And then in January, the selection procedure will take place. We assume a lot of work. I hope that there will be many, many proposals, including industries. And then we will have a kickoff workshop sometime in the beginning of March. And of course, after a year, the research results have to be presented. 2 more URLs. The call can be get through this EUAfrica.org URL. And there is a template with it, and you will have to submit the proposals through email using the template that we asked for. Those who are not using the template will have very low chance to get through, because the template really specifies the different aspects that we would like to hear of. So we encourage industrial partners as well, but as research and innovation takes the industry forward, we really aim at the results, the research results, which can be later on implemented in industrial activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Zoltan Bekadi, for sharing with us the opportunities that are available from the EUR R&D facility. And I think this really is upon us as industry to pick up these opportunities as a way of collaborating with the European like-minded institutions in order to better come up with solutions that address African needs. So thank you very much for that. We will move on to our next panelist, who is Dr. Miole Kashodi from Kennet. Okay, when you're ready, you can have the mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Am I visible? Okay, yes. Am I visible? Yeah, I think you can see my
We can see you, we can see your screen, but just put it, yeah, okay.
Right. There it goes. Thank you very much, Vivian, for putting me in this big panel discussion. I am kind of new to this community, the Earth observation community. As you heard, that I'm an engineer and a faculty member, and my work is, as I will be talking about, is really to promote research, and probably you can call it innovation engagement, especially between research institutions, universities in Kenya and the world. So it's so the projects that are being done by Zoltan are so interesting, because that's exactly what we do for our community. We let our community know that those opportunities do exist. Now, as you heard, this was read out as my bio, but I just wanted to tell you, we are the National Research and Education Network of Kenya. And for that, we are a community organization founded as a not-for-profit by universities and research institutions, and governed by the same university vice chancellors and CEOs of research institutions, as well as some government representatives. So we are not government, but we do the back-end work of making sure that IT and internet serve the education and research community of Kenya and connect us to the world. And for that, obviously we do lots of background work. You will see a lot of engineering and computer science work, but at the bottom of it is to promote, is to increase the research productivity of our community, and indirectly Kenya and Africa. And I will be, because I also represent, you are just one of the national research and education networks in Africa. I will also be introducing other similar bodies in other countries that can be used to connect the universities, the university faculty, the students with industry and with the world. So this is the kind of network we build in Kenya, and our interest in Earth observation came even before RCMRD. It came because of this Italian, this space agency in Malindi, the the eastern coast of Kenya. The western coast of, where the space station that is operated there, and that is our member, is part of our network. We've got a fiber network over there, and we know they have been looking for opportunities to collaborate with universities. So we kind of have had an interest in creating an engagement with the Earth observation group, but it hasn't been very successful so far. And this is the year that we hope that it will move forward. We've got, especially because of the engagement of RCMRD. So you can see we go all the way to Europe, and we touch something called the UbuntuNet cloud, as well as the GIANT Research and Education Network cloud. And that's the way we reach the global research and education community. So we kind of, all the traffic that is coming out of our institutions, and you can see we are in almost 400 campuses in Kenya. They generate the traffic, and we have got big pipes that connect through Europe, through GIANT, including as part of the initiative to raise the platform of Kenya and the Kenyan community, both the innovation hubs as well as the researchers themselves, so that they can be able to access all these resources that are available in the cloud. As I said, we are not alone. This is an African map of NRENs. It's old now. It's about 2016, done by the World Bank. We have grown since then, and we are much more connected. Obviously, Kenya is a lot more connected to South Africa. We are part of the Square Kilometer Array project that is being done by South Africa, and therefore we've got a lot of traffic that flows between that. The rest of the traffic, research traffic, goes to Europe and North America. So that's it. So if you really wanted to connect this, to connect the others, once I get this, I can communicate with my peers in both the Eastern and Southern Africa is the most active, but there is the Western Africa, this green area, and then the Austrian area is in North Africa and Middle East. So what's our motivation for doing all this? Our motivation is just as an example, I could have produced this report for Africa. We use Scopus and Elsevier to generate this. And the most important thing is that the Earth observation contribution to research community is only 2.6. The engineering is also small, and computer science. And what our intention is specifically as an NREN of Kenya is to make sure that we increase the research output of the computer sciences, engineering, environmental and earth sciences, as well as the urban observation. And I will be sharing with you how we do that. So our research productivity as a country is not high, and we think even with the kind of PhD community that we have, this can be increased even by 100 times or 10 times, 100 times. But we think that research engagement is what is required. Just awareness. But obviously we also build research infrastructures. We use the word discover because we have close to over 20 research intensive universities. We've got maybe 20 research institutes in marine, in agriculture, in all sorts of fields, including RCMRD is a member of our community. They don't talk to each other, and therefore the research collaboration leads to low research productivity and leads to low innovation output. And that's what we were set up to change. Just as an example of what we do with our infrastructure, we facilitate movement of data, large data sets from, if it is from Europe, like this example is something we did in 2019 for EU MedSat, from the EU MedSat. EU MedSat data is used a lot in Africa, in Kenya, and it is distributed via satellite, which is kind of an expensive module, an expensive medium. And the idea was to increase that data set, bring it over here at high speed and much more cheaply using the research and education fiber networks. So for this, we needed the German counterpart, research and education. We needed GIANT, the regional network. We needed the African regional network, UbuntuNet, and we needed KENNET. And then KENNET connects by fiber to RCMRD headquarters in Nairobi. And that is infrastructure, but engagement goes beyond that. It tries to make sure that the scientists themselves or the innovators have access to the data. So we build the storage infrastructures that can be used on a smaller scale, not the Amazon scale, but a small scale, especially for pilot or catalytic projects. So this is the way it was all done, and it's our engineers who work with the other engineers to set it up. It's in place, which means there is There is cheaper data if you get it from EU MedSat, but we can do this for any other data sets that are available. We move them through the research and education network, much cheaper than the satellite distribution. So how do we connect to the researchers? We connect to the researchers by creating special interest groups. And so far, we were building the infrastructure, but now we are building the communities themselves. And the first community that is obviously active is computer science and information systems. The engineering community, partly because I'm an electrical engineer myself. The applied sciences are very active in the computational modeling area and the material science. And now, this year, we shall be driving the Earth Observation Special Interest Group so as to connect the Earth Observation researchers in our universities with those, say, at RCMRD and the world. And right now, we are very glad to have Dr. Robinson Mugo join Kenneth as a member, and therefore will be kind of our engagement partner. But we are also, just like Zoltan was, we give catalytic grants, and these are community-funded grants, about $15,000 per university team or university's team. And at any one time, we've got about 12 to 15 of them operational. We are just going to get a new research, a call for proposals around about December. And we also use 1 year. They are called catalytic grants. And obviously, Kenneth is also participating in the EU African Regional Research and Education Networks, the Africa Connect project that aims to improve the research engagement with the Earth Observation Group. So we are completely committed to that. Now, what are the members that are in our community that are doing this? Obviously, universities have got geomatic engineering, meteorological schools of engineering, environment and space sciences. Most universities have an innovation hub now because once they have high-speed internet, they create innovation hubs. So the University of Nairobi, Dedan Kimathi, there are all sorts of hubs in Kenya pursuing all different types. And there is nothing wrong with them adding the Earth Observation initiative under their hub. And then, of course, the Kenya Space Agency, it was the Kenya Space Secretariat then that made it possible for us to work with the Broglio Space Station in Malindi. And then, of course, much more recently is the RCMRD. We still want to connect Kefri, Kemfri, ISPAC, some of those that are not yet part of our member, and that's going to be our initiative. So I think that tells you who we are and how we work and how we can support. We support the system rather than, so I'm not an expert in Earth observation, but I would like to support that group. And we kind of move on from one group to the other. We identify priority groups, and right now, for this year and the next 2 years, our priority group is the Earth Observation Group. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Meoli, for that very, intense presentation on what Kenneth does, and basically the contributions you're bringing in to support research, and particularly relating, of course, to AfriGEO, the contributions that you're making or putting in place to support the special interest group for the Earth Observation Program. And I think that will be is essentially of interest to all of us in this session. Also, not just as government organizations, but also relating to the private sector representation that is here. And ideally, it would basically set the ground forward for us to partner and to support this kind of initiatives in order that we can, improve and just get research out there. So allow me to, at this point, I don't think we have so much time left. At this point, we're not able to take the break. And so allow me to quickly just proceed to session 2 of the panelists. And I will introduce to you Ms. Pauline Okeo, who is the solutions engineer at Esri and has over 10 years experience working in GIS and supporting Pan-African organizations, regional partners to achieve sustainable development across the continent. So Ms. Pauline is basically going to share the work she has been doing with Esri over the years, working in the Eastern Africa region much more. The second panelist is going to be Mr. Charles Mwangi. Let me correct that, Captain Charles Mwangi from the Kenya Space Agency, who is currently the Acting Director of Space Sector and Technology Development. And he has been representing Kenya as an alternate member of the program board to the Group on Earth Observation GEO, and is leading a number of projects at KSA, including those that relate to GEO using the Google Earth Engine platforms, as well as those that are specific to EO, monitoring forests, urbanization, and floods. He holds a master's degree in electrical engineering from Jomo Kenyatta University, and in an international master's degree on space mission design and management from the University of Rome, La Sapienza. Charles is was also part of the team that developed Kenya's first CubeSat, christened that as ICUNS 1 PF, and was launched in May 2018. And he was also undertaken postgraduate courses in GIS and remote sensing from the University of ICT, together with many other diverse trainings in management and satellite engineering and remote sensing. So in general, he has over 18 years experience, majorly working in the public and also private sector. Lastly, as part of the panelists, second last as part of the panelists is going to be Mr. Derek Ongeri, who happens to be a colleague of mine at Locate IT and is currently working as a GIS and remote sensing technical expert and lead with Locate IT. So his expertise is in GIS, remote sensing, and environmental modeling, more specifically focusing on geospatial data, machine learning, and cloud computing technologies to study environmental change for proper and sustainable land and water resource management. He's an advocate, a huge advocate of open science and reproducible research, and has been involved in the development and publishing of various applications for geospatial analysis, such as MISLAND, which is the land degradation monitoring platform for North Africa, as well as the rapid wildfire damage assessment tool. He has taken part in research and development and quality assessment for the ESA CCI 20-meter land cover maps for Kenya, Gabon, Ivory Coast, and South Africa, and listed as a co-author in the working paper. So he's an active professional member of various institutions, including the International Society of Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing, ISPRS, as well as the SGSE, Space Generation Advisory Council, as well as the GeoSK, where he actively engages and shares his skills and knowledge. Last but not least, I have the pleasure to introduce to you, I think, one of my mentors from way back. This is Mr. Rolf Baker, who is an ITC alumni from all the way in 1962. So Rolf's involvement in Africa started in 1964 as a technical director come aerial photographer for aerial precision mapping, a small startup in Lebanon that had been contracted basically by FAO to carry out aerial photogrammetry projects over Africa 10 years later. Mr. Bex, with the Lebanese partners, moved on to form what they called MAPS Geosystems, a company based in the UAE that eventually grew into the largest aerial survey operator in Africa and the Middle East. In photogrammetry and surveying, MAPS pioneered many of the procedures, methods that have since been turned into the standard operating procedures in the industry worldwide. And just to mention among others, airborne GPSs. In the recent years, that is 2001 to 2005, he became a master distributor of Digital Globe, where MAPS became a leading player in introducing into Africa satellite imagery with a sub-meter resolution, not withholding, the notable support he provided to RCMRD in those years. After withdrawing from MAPS Geosystems, Baker formed what is now his current involvement, which is Geodyne Technology, drawing on key personnel employees of his former company. Under the motto of what, where, and when, today Geodyne concentrates on promoting the utilization or the usage of time, the temporal data attribute in GIS, and on developing the necessary tools and procedures required to achieve this. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to introduce Miss, just give me a second. I would like to introduce Miss Pauline Okeo to take the floor. And please, Miss Pauline Okeo, just remember to keep the session in less than 8 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vivian. I hope that you're all able to see my screen and you can hear me clearly.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you to the AfriGEO Secretariat for this opportunity. It's a great honor for us to be able to participate in the symposium. As recently, I'd say about 2 years, having joined the GEO community as an associate member organization. As it has been mentioned twice before, I'm Pauline. I work for Esri as a solution engineer, supporting efforts or our users across Africa. And I'll just take the next few minutes to talk about how we've been able to do that. So as many of you are aware already, Esri has been behind the widely used technology of ArcGIS, which is a system or a platform that enables the use of spatial data to be able to derive insights from them. And some of the key ways that we've been providing our platform to enable accessing data, that's Earth observation data, has been around key capabilities or key workflows which have been used by a number of organizations to be able to do this. So we have supported activities around management of imagery, whereby once the data has been collected from various sensors, be it satellites, drone imagery, or any other sources of imagery, we provided a platform or the technology to allow organizations to be able to easily manage and handle these data sets and be able to have access to it whenever that was required. We've also supported map production, whereby we've enabled organizations to create authoritative imagery-derived maps and products all the same. There's analysis, whereby we have given tools that will allow people to be able to do analysis on some of these data sets. And I'm so happy to hear from the other presenters how they've mentioned that they're supporting research and development efforts around this, and we definitely look forward to be able to have some of the models that you have created to be made available through our platform, which is just an enabler that provides open access, be it through the models and other external toolkits, to be able to use this on, or to apply this on the data set so that people can have meaningful insights from them. So some of the workflows we support in analysis are on classification, using deep learning tools within the system that's already been integrated, but we also have open ways of integrating this with other systems out there. In addition to that, we have provided image visualization and exploitation capabilities. This can be done on the web using mobile devices or using some of our advanced professional software around this. And this allows people to be able to integrate imagery into dynamic applications that will aid them in various ways, be it when looking at disaster response activities, be it when it comes to support activities by local authorities or local governments and national governments and so on. We provided tools that enable people to be able to visualize this information and use it for reference purposes or be able to extract information from it. And finally, we have a global data set or a global data resource that we provided to various users. And this is available through our main resource for providing data, which is what we call the Living Atlas. And from the Living Atlas, we have contributions from many people. These are S3 partners or development partners in Africa. We have organizations that have been able to provide data through the Living Atlas for use by other people. And also other individuals within our ecosystem have also been able to provide their data for use, be it as dynamic data, which is data that someone can actually interact with it and be able to apply analysis on it, or just for reference purposes as map services. So we have all these resources that we've made available in collaboration with a number of organizations across Africa, and we're trying to support users across the continent again to be able to make use of this data, because we do understand that previously there was such a huge shortage in terms of trying to access this data and trying to make use of it in terms of skills and capabilities. And we've had these concerns from many people, and we've just tried to make our technology available to support most of these activities. So our main way of doing this or achieving this is, again, through many initiatives we have. I believe some organizations that are present here today have benefited from some of our initiatives. We have programs that support disaster response activities, where we are enabling organizations to be able to use our technology bundled to support these activities at no cost. We also have some of components of our technology that has been used by national governments in activities such as demographic mapping, or trying to understand the distribution of their population across the land. And definitely when it comes to that, doing the early preparation for such activities relies heavily on Earth observation data, and is being able to have this as a component that is made available to these organizations to be able to do that. When it comes to education, we worked with a number of education facilities or institutions to enable them to also take advantage of our technology, because you'll find that many people who are going through education, they may not have access to this software or the ability to be able to do analysis with this software, or having the skills to be able to work with spatial data and then derive insights from it. So we've also supported education institutions, and we have a number of programs where we are supporting different people and so on to be able to do this. And the last one to mention is our programs that we are working with SMEs and other organizations that previously, again, did not have the platform to be able to come up with solutions to actually support some initiatives, or some of the key concerns we have in Africa, such as food security and so on. And I think some of those include people like Agribora, who we have talked to about trying to enable their models to be made available for some of their end users, such as farmers, using Earth observation data, of course. And also a few other organizations that are within the Earth observation space who previously didn't have the platform or an ability to easily bring in data from data cubes and so on to be able to visualize and access this data. And one of the main initiatives we have is on AfriGEO portal, whereby we have this vision of having one platform or one portal that provides users, or that's people in Africa, access to data, access to mapping and visualization tools, access to analytic tools, which they can do, which they can use to do analysis online, and then of course to learning resources which can help them build their capacity in trying to use Earth observation data or derivatives from Earth observation data, and be able to support various users across the continent. So with that, we are achieving the goal of removing any barrier to entry of geospatial technology and allowing the penetration of this technology to individuals, as well as new entrants in our space, such as innovation hubs around the use of Earth observation data. We're also enabling for people to have this sustainable portal, whereby they can be able to access the tools and the data sets and be able to visualize and share the outputs with other people and so on. And we work with a number of countries to be able to do this. And finally, as a portal or as an initiative, we worked with a number of organizations within the continent to also provide access to this data. So one example is Digital Africa, whereby they've had from their data cube different products which they've made available, and we've also pulled in this data to make it available for different users across the continent as image services that people can make use of through AfriGEO portal and so on. So those are some of the ways that we are supporting Earth observations and supporting the community members within Africa to be able to access this data and be able to make use of it. We definitely look forward to interacting with many of you around this, and you can access us through some of the links that I've shared there. Please feel free for the purposes of collaboration with some of the great work we've had so far in this session, as well as the previous sessions. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to make available your data, to make your data available for use across the continent, to various data communities we have in the continent, and we look forward to that collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pauline Okeo, for sharing your insights from the ESRI Eastern Africa perspective. And I think I must say that as a company, ESRI has been contributing a lot to the geospatial industry by virtue of the fact that you're providing us with all these technologies that we're able to now use to promote the utilization of or the uptake of the space benefits or GIS benefits to the society. So once again, participants, please remember to share your questions in the Q&A section so that we can kindly ask our panelists to respond to them there. And as panelists, I think there are some questions that are already there. Please be on the lookout for the Q&A session to answer to the questions that relate to you. Our next presenter is going to be Captain Charles Mwangi, Mr. Charles Mwangi from the Kenya Space Agency. Please, the floor is yours, and kindly keep your timelines to less than 8 minutes.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, AfriGEO Secretariat, for having the Kenya Space Agency in this forum. We're glad to be part of the discussion that is happening today and has been happening since yesterday. As an agency, we are quite young. That's my bio. I had not repeated. Vivian had already gone through it. As an agency, we are quite young. We were established in 2017 with the mandate to promote, coordinate, and regulate space-related activities within the country, with a vision to utilize space for Kenya's economic and social development, with a mission to develop and nurture a vibrant domestic space industry. Again, my focus would be majorly on Earth observation and their application.
I have no clue. I have no clue. I have no clue. I don't.
We focus on the upstream as well as the downstream. Majorly when you're looking at the upstream, you're looking at the satellites as well as the ground infrastructure to be able to receive that data. So that is an area we're focusing on, and we're also focusing on the how you utilize the data more especially to guide decision making. One of the key elements that we engaged in is the engagement with the stakeholders to better understand their needs. And we had such a forum in last year in February, where we had discussions on Earth observation applications and the needs from the community. This year we had planned to have an event, but COVID happened. We're planning to have an event next year where we'll have discussions around the same, and we're hoping to host the Africa Space Week, where again, more discussions on application of Earth observation will happen. We're hoping to have that in April, May timeline. One of the other ways we are using to catalyze more activities within the sector is by having research grants, and I'm glad also to hear from Professor Meoli indicating that they're also doing the same. So we have this year, in fact, yesterday we did announce the beneficiaries for the research years. The nanosatellite development is essentially to leverage on the upstream that I mentioned to be able to receive the data, and also develop that technology to be able to collect that data and transmit that data to the ground station, and as well as processing. The other application we were looking at is small-scale crop mapping using artificial intelligence and machine learning. And both of these two research grants were going to the universities. We have another one that we have we announced yesterday, which would go to the startup companies to help them also categorize some activities within the private sector, where we'd be expecting them to develop data collection, mobile land cover data collection mobile app to develop that. So one of the other key highlights in terms of our operations, and I know Stephen mentioned this during the initial initial presentations. He mentioned about the Group on Earth observation and Google Earth Engine opportunity. We did apply for that opportunity and we were selected. But essentially the drive for us being involved in these two, we are trying to bridge a gap in terms of the needs of the stakeholder, because there was a report that was done by the United Nations, UNDP in 2016, that was highlighting the challenges that different institutions have in terms of the tools for processing the data, and as well as the access to those tools. And Google Earth Engine was a very good tool that we thought we could use for that application. And we did apply, and we have a number of projects that are going. We call the project Monitoring for Information and Decisions Using Space Technology. Our ultimate aim is to try and see how we can leverage on free and open source data and systems to enable policymakers to make decisions which are grounded on data. And we have been developing applications on 3 main areas. Natural resource, we have products on forest, spatial planning, where we're looking at urbanization, disaster management, where we are looking at floods and landslide. We have completed the forest section. We are already working on the completion of the urbanization component, and then we'll get to floods and landslide. And then one of the important elements of this engagement is the development of a graphical user interface, which would enable policymakers who are possibly not well versed with the programming elements to be able to still generate products. And that is still under development, and we'll be able to see one of those items. So this is one of the products that we were able to generate. This is the Aberdare Forest. It's in central Kenya. Again, one of the approach was to engage different stakeholders from across Kenya Forest Service, who are in charge of the forest, Kenya Wildlife Service, who also oversee our parks. The Aberdare Forest is overseen by those 2 institutions. And then we also had other stakeholders who were keen to work with Department of Resources, Surveys, and Remote Sensing, among others. So the idea is to engage them and also introduce the new tools that are available out there and can be used to generate products like the ones that have been indicated in that slide. So the other element I mentioned is the graphical user interface, which we have developed again to enable policymakers to, for example, see change. What you have in that screen is what we're working on urbanization. It's in Nakuru County. And again, we're working with stakeholders. We're working with the Nakuru County. We're working with the government offices that deal with spatial planning, urban planning, Kenya Roads Board, among others. So the idea is also to try and create that avenue where different stakeholders can work together to generate product as we build capacity in terms of enabling them to generate the tool, the output by themselves. We have a number of other initiatives. This is just a highlight of some of them on agriculture, spatial planning, mining, among others. But again, this is just a highlight. We have many other that are already ongoing, but this was just to give a highlight. And I want to reiterate what the earlier members were saying. We are very keen on promoting open data, open science, open standards, open science, and we that is why partly, as I mentioned earlier, we adopted the approach of using Google Earth Engine, because it's one of those tools that we see has a lot of potential, especially as a tool for generating products on Earth observation. One of the other initiatives, although I didn't mention here, is we're also working on the possibility of setting up an open data cube. Again, not to replicate what Digital Earth Africa is doing, but also to try and replicate what Brazil, Swiss have already done in terms of having a central repository where, again, the different institutions, maybe through the Kenneth network, can access that platform to generate product. I will stop it there, but again, in terms of the potential for working together and establishing linkages, we are open to that. And I want to thank the AfriGEO for, again, organizing this very insightful meeting, and Vivian also for your wonderful moderating. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles Mwangi, for that very good presentation about what Kenya Space Agency is doing. And you know, as one of the latest space entrants, or the newest kid on the block in the space agency category, I think it's a very wonderful job that you're putting together there in promoting and ensuring that in Kenya particularly, space science is really taken to the grassroots levels, and also implemented within the governance structures that we have to the lowest level, even including the county governments. So thank you very much for that. And now we will move to our next presenter, who is Mr. Derek Ongeri. And Derek will be sharing his experience or Locate IT experience in the geo or space sector in the last couple of months. So Derek, kindly keep the 8-minute time frame. The floor is yours. Thank you. We can see your screen, but we can't hear you.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Vivian. I will try to stick to the 8 minutes. So I'll not go over my bio. I think this has been read, but I will briefly talk about Locate IT as a company, some of our partnerships in the spirit of collaboration, and some of the Earth observation projects that we have been undertaking. So Locate IT is a leading GeoICT company that is based in Nairobi, Kenya, and we offer cutting-edge location-based products and solutions that are anchored on modern technologies of space science, remote sensing, Earth observation, and GIS, airborne sensors, as well as building applications. So our main mission as a company is to provide highly sophisticated yet simple technologies and geomatic products and services and solutions that promote positive impact in the society. And we're also guided by our vision, which is to be a premier company that transforms communities in Africa through provision of innovative solutions using space technologies. And in the DNA of the company, we have the 3 I's framework, which basically is information, which we obtain from satellite imagery, to creating initiatives, and also we follow up on the impact. So we never shy away from trying to understand the nature of what we are dealing with, and even try to propose solutions based on our analysis. So in our partnerships, we partner with some of the regional mapping institutions, as well as other international partners, to even universities. And these are just few of the many partners that we have. For the projects that we are currently running under the Earth observation department is the first project is, of course, the AfriCultures project, which is a H2020 project that is designed aims to design and implement and demonstrate an integration of agricultural monitoring and early warning systems that will support decision making, especially in the field of agriculture. So here we are looking at crop modeling. We are looking at downstream applications that are user friendly for the farmers, and also building capacities and leveraging awareness, leveraging on the awareness rising. So basically, this is through partnership with so many other institutions within the African continent, and we have several use cases and several workshops that have been conducted to try and follow up. And I think some of the applications are already under testing in some of the countries that are highlighted on the map. I think you can see on the African continent. So another project also in the agricultural sector is the Kilimo project, which is an innovation for low input maize production. So we are looking at smallholder farmers and how they can benefit from satellite derived crop analytics. And the beauty about this is in the morning session, someone was talking about bridging the digital divide, and even some of the extension officers learning the new technologies. And what we have done with Kilimo is that we have even a field application for the extension officers that is very easy and intuitive for the registration of farmers in terms of getting crop analytics data. And for this, we have statistics for, let's say, the county governments. You have crop alerts to the extension officers, and you also have an SMSing system between the extension officers and the farmers. So all of them benefit from all these insights that are derived from satellite imagery, and there is a two-way communication between extension officers and farmers. Also, as part of the GMS and Africa projects, we have partnered with a few of the organizations within the region. So one of them is in modeling wind erosion, which is a very silent yet and ignored land degradation process that really affects most rangelands where we have pastures and even some of the croplands. So we tried to make this matter of wind erosion tangible by providing evidences and mapping out susceptibility using Earth observation. And this project was done in collaboration with the RCMRD. And again, as part of the outputs, you can see we had the land susceptibility to wind erosion maps. We had the methodology fully shared out, and we had Makerere University being part of the program where all the information was shared and all the trainings were offered. And also as a company, we have some of our flagship products like the Mapographics, where we offer the insights and some of the interesting finds that we come across during the undertaking of the project, and try to break down that information and synthesize it even for decision makers. Another project that we are still currently running is the Monitoring Integrated Service for Land Degradation, which is MISLAN. And this is covering 6 North African countries in collaboration with the OSS. And at the very core, you're looking at land degradation neutrality using the methodology proposed by the UNCCD. And on top of that, you have other complex land degradation processes being monitored and assessed all in one platform. And this gives an overview of the multifaceted land degradation scenario in the northern side of Africa. Also, in the wetlands area, we have partnered also with the South African partners, and we are looking at wetland monitoring and assessment platform for 4 of the big basins in South Africa. That's the Kuvelai, Okavango Basin, Limpopo, and the Zambezi Basin. So also with this, we developed a platform, and what is to note with some of these platforms, they're not just dissemination platforms, but we have all this visualization, all the models embedded, some of the methodologies and the documentations shared to our end users. So basically that is a snippet of what we are doing under the Earth observation and how we are trying to partner and drive the use of Earth observation and try to share our knowledge out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Derek Ongeri, for sharing the work you're doing with Locate IT. Of course, relating much more to the 3 I's initiative, information, interventions, and impacts, whereby you are basically promoting and taking these technologies to the end user communities, such as those farmers, in order to achieve sustainable development. So thank you very much for that presentation. So next, we're going to have the pleasure of inviting and listening to Mr. Rolf Becker from Geodyne Technologies. Rolf. Rolf, I think he must have dropped off at this point. Okay, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think there has been a few questions on the chat box, and some of them I think will be taken very closely with the follow-up teams. And Zlatan, there was a question for you in the chat box. I think it has sort of like disappeared on my side, but maybe if I could give you an opportunity to just respond to it directly before we move on.
In fact, I think you can find the question at the answered question.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I'm very happily answering this really on the plenary, because this was about that what synergies do you see of the EU Africa work program with the activities of GMES and Africa, Digital Earth Africa, and Servier? Are there plans to coordinate with those? Coordinate with those programs? First of all, just a comment before I summarize what I answered to this is that working through partners in Africa, like OSS and RCMRD and others, already is a guarantee for synergy between these programs. But in spite of, besides this via, we directly have connections both to the GMES and Africa program and many others, like partners, network partners like CAPNet, WaterNet, NBCBN, and also ITC, the lead in the EU Africa R&D facility, had direct work with Digital Earth Africa for long, and we are in negotiation and discussion with Digital Earth Africa. So I think the question is very, very important and useful, because the synergies and the cooperations between these programs is extremely important. One program cannot mean the salvation for the EU issues and problems anywhere, not even for such a huge continent as Africa. So I think only working together, knowing about each other and supporting each other, using each other's technologies and providing insight into what has been developed can be effective in Africa.
Okay, thank you very much for your very kind response to that. And ideally just reiterating the fact that as EO R&D facility, you're here to support much more of our initiatives and also promote the partnerships between the two continents. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I don't see any other questions from the Q&A box. And I think I would like to end that session here, cognizant of the time also, and present you, of course, and share, of course, my appreciation to all of you panelists who are able to join us today to share your experiences. That is Audrey, Zoltan, Mioli, Pauline, Charles, and Derek. Just to thank you for sharing with the rest of the participants the work that you have been doing, and I do believe that that will go a long way towards just building capacity for all of us. I am being notified at this point that Mr. Rolf Becker is back. Rolf, can you hear me? Maybe if you can, I think Rolf, we could give you.
Can you hear me now?
Closing. I didn't realize you're back. I can hear you now. So I think I'll try to give you an opportunity to present. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you.
You cannot hear me?
We can hear you.
Ah, you can hear me, okay.
Yes. Is a presentation you're sharing? RCMRD Secretariat, is there anyone to assist with the presentation?
He had not submitted any. He was to give a talk.
Okay. Mr. Rolf, if you can hear us, kindly just go ahead and make your submissions virtually.
Sorry, I don't understand.
The floor is yours. You can make your presentation now. Can you hear me?
Well, I can hear you, but I mean, you have my presentation. I've submitted this a long time ago with all details, and I don't know what happened. 3-4 days ago, I put all the things together, and it has been acknowledged, and have been told that it was beautiful presentation, everything, and now comes nothing.
Okay, I don't know. Could you be having it so that you could share it from your side?
Well, I can. Well, I don't know. I mean, you have my stuff. I cannot. I don't know. I'm in the home office. I really don't know.
Okay.
All
right. I think maybe there was a technical problem there, because I don't think the technical team from the Secretariat has a presentation.
Yeah. I think, Vivian, yes. We are going to see some of his work in the virtual booths. I think
okay.
It was saved.
All right. Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rolf Becker. It would have been a pleasure to hear from you, but so far I hear that you have a presentation ready in the virtual booth. So I think we'll still have an opportunity to see the work that Jordan is doing in the virtual booth. So moving on, I think, as I was saying, as basically thanking all the panelists, as mentioned, but also conveying my appreciation to the speakers, the guest speakers of the day, that is Mr. Dan and also Stephen, for sharing some of the work that they're doing, around GEO and also from the Sub-Saharan Africa project. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I think at this point, we would like to close this session online, but I'm basically welcoming you to log on to the AfriGEO Symposium website and watch the virtual booths. Basically, this time was allocated to ensure that the virtual booths that we have, our partners have ensured have been prepared basically for all of us to view. So please head on to the website. The virtual booths, you will see presentations from 3 institutions, much more than what some of them may have covered in this session. And that includes the Kenya Space Agency, MOI, as well as the Digital Earth Africa and Geodyne Technologies. As soon as you are done with the virtual booths, I think there will be a notification to close that session. So kindly feel free to leave at your own pleasure. Thank you, and have a good afternoon, evening, and morning to the rest of all of you.
Thank you.